Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. My name is Corin, also known as the Kitten Choreographer, and I'm a teen with a passion for makeup and kitten rescue. And I'm excited for this video because it is Pride Month, it is June, and I just thought I would do some makeup looks for Pride. I'm gonna do two in this video. I really would love to do an entire series where I do a ton of flags and makeup, but I realize I just don't have the time or energy to really commit to that this month or this year, so maybe next year. But for this year, I'm just gonna do two flags, and the flags I decided to do are the flags that I'm a part of, but I'm gonna be doing the bi flag and the non-binary flag. I will pop pictures on the screen real quick of the flags that I'm gonna be doing, and I'm not like painting a flag on my face, I am just being inspired by those color stories to create makeup looks around them. And so for the first look, I have my bi earrings in, and we're gonna be doing a bi look. So I asked over on my Instagram a few days ago just to submit some questions related to me being LGBTQ and LGBTQ in general, and a lot of the questions were the same, so I decided to not answer specific questions and to instead focus on just the general topics that were asked about a lot. So I decided this is going to be one video where I do both of the looks, but I'm filming them at separate times. So in the first section of the video, I'm just going to be talking about internalized homophobia and me coming out, and in the second part of the video where I do the non-binary flag, I'm going to be talking about Pride Month and LGBTQ and how you can support your LGBTQ plus friends. So yeah, I hope this video is fun for you or sounds fun for you. My cats are going crazy, so if you hear anything in the background, they're really playing right now. So I'm gonna zoom in and we're gonna start with the makeup look. I'm doing kind of different types of makeup. So for my non-binary look, I want it to be very dark and smoky, and for this I just want it to be very bright and fun. So I'm gonna take my Urban Decay primer potion. Okay, so I'm just gonna blend that out. So I am gonna be kind of explaining my makeup to you, but I'm also gonna be discussing the things that I said I would be discussing about. One thing I do want to note though is that I really wanted to just do this makeup the way I wanted to do it, and I didn't want to be confined to a palette or anything. And it turns out that I brought over 6 palettes, and I'm probably gonna be using 1 or 2 shades from all of them. So sorry you can't really follow along this video, but they're pretty basic-ish colors, like pinks, purples, and blues. So maybe if you do want to do a bi makeup look, you have some of the makeup at home or just some of the colors at home. So first off, I'm going to be going to the Strawberry Dream palette by Lunar Beauty. I do really like this palette. I'm going to be going into this bright hot pink, the shade Pink Flash. And I'm going to start just building this shade into like the front third of my crease. And I'm gonna start by talking about internalized homophobia. So I got a couple questions about that. If you don't know what internalized homophobia is, it's basically an LGBTQ person that will openly say they're not really homophobic, but inside they still have some feelings that are like, oh, you know, I shouldn't be like this, you know, or at least that's how it was for me. That's not a dictionary definition by any means, but for me, I did have some internalized homophobia. If you don't know, I was raised very Christian. I was raised in an openly homophobic church. My parents were never homophobic, but there was a misunderstanding amongst us for a few years where I thought they were. So I actually was homophobic until about 6th grade, and I was even transphobic until about 7th grade. Or, you know, I would never openly, I was never like, ew, gay people are going to hell, but I would definitely be like, oh, so, you know, you're gay, okay. Yeah, like I support you, but I was really like, just thought it was really weird. But obviously I don't think it's weird anymore, but I did think it was weird for a while. And that just comes from being raised in an environment that wasn't very supportive of gay people. And again, you know, my parents have always been supportive of gay people, but the church that we went to when I was little was not. I was never raised around gay people that I knew were gay, at least, or that I understood what gay was. But yes, I definitely had some internalized homophobia. There was even a period in 7th grade when I realized that I was bi. I was outed for being bi and everyone started making fun of me, and so I went back in the closet. I was like, oh, actually, you know, I'm straight. I actually don't think I'm bi. And once I was outed in 7th grade, I actually did go back in the closet until 8th grade, unless it was around really close friends, or even for a while I tried to convince myself that I wasn't. There was an entire situation in 7th grade where I can't go into it, but basically a whole group of people started hating me because I acted obsessed with this guy, and I didn't even like him. I was just trying to convince myself that I liked a guy, so I like acted obsessed with this guy and I didn't even like him. Okay, so next we're gonna go into the purple. So I'm gonna go into the shade Tribute from the Pure X Raw Beauty Christie palette. So I'm gonna go into this brush that's like a mix between a pencil brush and a fluffy brush. I would rather use like a small condensed fluffy brush, but I just don't have 3 of those, so I'm just gonna use this one. And anyway, I definitely had some internalized homophobia. I definitely tried to convince myself I was straight for a while there. You know, I had homophobia, and then I realized that I wasn't straight, and so I started to have more like, oh, I'm not homophobic, but then it was more like internalized. And even in like 8th grade, I was literally totally okay with people not being straight, but I still wasn't okay with myself not being straight. Like, it's a really weird thing, internalized homophobia, because even if you know logically like being gay is fine, it doesn't mean it's super easy to just convince yourself of that. It's a really weird situation. Yes, I definitely had internalized homophobia, and I don't even know how I got over it. I honestly don't know. It's probably just from hanging out with other people that were gay. It's really weird. I don't know how I got over it, so I don't really have any tips for anyone else. I just know that like it slowly changed from oh, you know, I'm homophobic, but I wouldn't admit that, but like I was, to an oh, you know, I'm not homophobic, you know, with the internalized homophobia in there, to like me being okay with who I am, which is what I am now. I'm actually even proud. I say as I paint the bi flag on my eyes, you see I'm proud. I'm also just gonna take a little fluffy brush, and because that brush wasn't a crease brush really, it didn't really want to blend out, so I'm gonna go into the shade Honey Lavender from the Glamlight Ice Cream Dream palette. I didn't even show that well. Honey Lavender, this shade, which I actually used in my last tutorial, but oh well, I like this palette, and I'm just gonna kind of blend that out a bit. I actually probably need to use the pink shade to blend out that section as well. I'll do that in a second. But yeah, I kind of just got over it. I didn't really have any tips on how to get over it. I'm sure there are tips out there. I just really don't know how I got over my internalized homophobia. I just kind of did. I'm going to just intensify the dark pink a little bit. This is another little crease brush, and I'm going into Bubblegum from that shade, from that palette. I'm actually gonna mix these 2 shades and just kind of blend out the bright pink with that, and then I'll re-intensify the bright pink in a second. But I don't know, I just got over it. I don't know how. That's super bad advice, but I don't know how I got over it. I really don't. So good luck to you. And a lot of people asked about my coming out, and it was very hectic. I've come out quite a lot of times actually, just because it's taken me quite a long time to figure out who I actually am. And so I came out as bi first in 7th grade, and I told a couple of my close friends at the time. None of those friends are actually my close friends anymore. Yeah, I was actually outed by one of those close friends, so definitely not a close friend anymore. I basically tried to tell my mom. The mom story is the funniest. It's funny now. It was not funny then, but it was definitely funny now. Like I said earlier, my mom is not homophobic. She supports me 100%, and I'm so incredibly thankful for that. But basically, I tried to bring it up to my mom. The first time I started like questioning my sexuality was when I met a bi friend in like a theater thing, because I used to do a lot of theater. So I met her, and I'd heard of gay and straight before, but I'd never heard of bi. I didn't know you could like, as I thought at the time, like be a mix of the sexualities, which bi is not a mix of the sexualities, but that's kind of what I thought at the time. And I never met someone that was bi, and I didn't even know it was a thing. I hadn't thought about it much, but I'd come to the conclusion that I wasn't a lesbian because I liked boys sometimes, which, you know, is it's a fair conclusion, but I didn't realize like, oh, I could like girls too. So when I heard about this, I went home and I was immediately like stressing about it. I was immediately stressing about it, and I went to my mom and was like, and I thought in my brain I was saying I think I'm bi, but turns out I said something along the lines of, do you think I'm bi? And my mom, you know, she had never heard any thoughts from me that I might potentially not be straight, so she was like, no honey, I don't think you're bi. And I took that to mean that she didn't support me, and that she wasn't accepting me, and that she refused to think that I was bi. Misunderstanding there. So I was devastated, and I spent the next few months convincing myself that I was straight. Until one day I was finally like, okay, you're not straight. I need to continue doing my makeup. Storytelling is fun though, so I'm gonna go into Blue Skies here, start building that up in kind of a wing shape out here. And so I finally had to admit to myself, I was like, okay, you know, you're not actually straight, you're bi. I ended up going to my mom. I remember we were going to get ice cream, and I made her eat in the car because I didn't want to talk about it to her in the store. But I told her, and I like broke down in tears and was like, I'm bi, why, you didn't accept me? And she's like, I did accept you, and basically that's when it came out that it was a huge misunderstanding and just me being weird. I made her tell my dad because I was too scared to. It wasn't that I was scared to tell him in particular, it was just that I couldn't go through the stress of telling another person that day again. So that's how I came out to her, and she she's totally supportive, and I'm really thankful for that. I'm gonna go into like this brush and deepen up the blue with haze, this blue. And so that's the situation with me coming out to my parents, and there's a million other coming outs to, you know, friends. When you're not straight, you have to come out to people frequently. People assume straightness, which, you know, that's not how I think it should be, but that's how it is currently. So you have to come out to people frequently. So there are hundreds of coming outs that I'm not gonna tell you about because frankly, it's just gone, you know, in the motions now. It's just kind of repetitive for me. So the next coming out that's probably a worth is my, I don't remember the exact timeline here, but there were times I came out as lesbian and then times I came out as pan before I finally settled on bi again. But there were definitely times where I was very confused about that whole situation. Then there was also the coming out as gender fluid, which I did pretty much on the internet. I did make a video about that. It's no longer on my channel because I'm not gender fluid, but I did think I was gender fluid for several months. And then I settled on transmasc, which I'm also not transmasc. I'm actually non-binary. And the transmasc video is still on my channel, which I probably need to take it down or just private it because I don't really want people to see it and then like call me by the wrong pronouns because they're trying to be supportive, but it's not actually the pronouns I go by currently. So now I'm gonna focus on cutting the crease before we continue the storytelling. But basically, it's really quick. You know, coming out to my parents as a different gender than like a girl was very scary, but I knew they were gonna support me, so I didn't really know why I was scared any of those times, but I was. And then like announcing it to the internet is always very scary. There's the primer I'm looking for. But all in all, it was definitely me coming out as bi the first time to my mom. That was the most nerve-wracking. I'm going to NYX glitter primer and I'm just gonna do a full cut crease with this. Tip for cut creases, it's so much easier to do it with glitter primer than with concealer, in my opinion. It's hard to talk and do a cut crease at the same time. That's why I'm kind of just silent for a second here. These are really easy for me at this point, but I have done them quite a lot, so they could be hard at first, but I'm just used to it at this point, so that's why it's not that hard. And now I'm gonna do the shimmers. So I'm gonna go into the Glam Light Ice Cream Dream palette again and take the shade Strawberry, which is this pink shimmer right here, and I'm gonna start laying that on the front portion of my lid where the pink is in the crease. But basically, gender coming out was less eventful, but still nerve-wracking, especially since I was coming out to the internet for that time. Yeah, but coming out, it's definitely hard. It's definitely one of the hardest things ever, and I hate that in our culture it is so like, oh, gay people have to come out because it's so normalized for you to be your birth gender and to be straight. For the purple, I'm gonna go into the Beauty Bay Book of Magic palette and go into Charmed, this purple here, and use my finger to put that on the middle portion of the lid. Yeah, I just hate that you have to come out, that it's so normalized to only be straight and your birth gender, straight and cis. So I definitely, like, if you're a parent, definitely like keep in mind, you know, your child might not end up being straight and cis and you just need to be supportive of that. I'm just gonna blend some of the pink into that. And now I'm gonna go into the Juvia's Place, the Warrior 3, and I'm gonna go into the shade Congo, which is this blue shimmer right here. I'm gonna go back onto the brush and use the other side that I didn't use the pink on and pop that on the outer portion. But basically, coming out is really hard, and so just like do your best to be supportive. I know I was supposed to talk about like being supportive in the non-binary look, so I'm gonna try and refrain from talking too much about how you can support your friends or your family members that are LGBTQ+. So you have to wait for that. But what else do I want to talk about right now? Because Pride is something, like, I really love it now. I love the month of June now because I didn't love myself for who I was for such a long time. I definitely just am very prideful now because I wasn't for so long, you know? I feel like now it's a good time to mention that, like, the first Pride was a riot and it was run by Black trans people. People of color have such an important place in Pride. Trans people of color have such an important place at Pride. And while yes, everyone has an important place in Pride, I think we need to remember that we have Pride because Black trans women risked their lives, you know, lost their lives so that we could now be seen. Just cleaning this up, and then I'm gonna go grab some liner because I do want to add liner to this look. This is the NYX Epic Ink Liner, and I'm just gonna draw a wing. I'll be right back. Okay, so this is the eyes. I think I am gonna do my face on camera just because I feel like it. I just feel like it. So this is the NYX Marshmallow Primer. I'm gonna go in with the Bite Beauty Changemaker foundation and just a sponge. One thing that's just so hard is that even like children are bullied for like their gender or their sexuality, and I think that's just so awful. Like, I've had many instances where family have been awful to me because of my sexuality, and then I've had, you know, many instances where people have been awful to me in school because of my sexuality. It just sucks. Like, why do kids have to be mean to each other? And the thing is, they would be a whole lot less mean if parents didn't teach them to be mean. I feel like so much meanness is taught, like racism, homophobia, all of the stuff, it's just taught. You know, these kids aren't born homophobic, racist, all of that stuff. Everyone would be so much nicer if people didn't just teach their kids to be mean. Like, what's the point of just teaching your kid to be mean? Like, do you want your kid to be mean? And then there's the issue of like religion. So many people justify their homophobia by religion, but I'm pretty sure that the religion, Christianity, that y'all are the people that are homophobic. The number one, you know, I used to be Christian. I read the Bible a lot, and the number one thing that Jesus says is to be nice to people. And you're over here ripping people down for being gay. That's not being nice to people. There's like very few verses that even mention being gay, and then there's the whole topic of it wasn't even in the Bible until like the 1940s when someone changed it to be against gay people. I hate that so many people use religion to justify their homophobia when their religion says to be nice above everything and to love people. Did I mention the concealer I just used was the e.l.f. Hydrating Camel Concealer? There's also the argument, like this wasn't a planned topic, but I just like popped in my head. There's also the argument of like, oh, gay people haven't even been around that long. That means it's a trend. But like, the reason there isn't much historical documentation about gay people or trans people is because, one, historians ignored it, or two, all the people were killed or shunned, or, you know, people just hid it because they knew they would be killed or shunned. So there would have been gay and trans people in history a ton if people had supported it. So I'm gonna go into the Patrick Ta bronzer thing, and I'm gonna contour with this. It just annoys me to no extent. Homophobes, they just annoy me. Just be nice to people. It's not that hard. Straight people will be like, oh, why don't we get a pride? Because you didn't have to fight for your lives. You might have had to for other reasons, but not for being straight. Like, if the roles were reversed, I would be totally fine not having a pride. If straight people were the ones killed, I would be fine not having a pride. But I want a pride because many people in the same community as me have been bullied and killed for things they cannot control. Because if you're new to the community or you don't know much about gay people or trans people, it's not a choice. You don't choose to be lesbian or gay or whatever. I'm gonna set with the Urban Decay Velvetizer. I normally have a separate sponge for powder, but I forgot to bring it over and I don't feel like getting up, so I'm just gonna use the same sponge I used to blend out my foundation. My nose is all crusty because I've been neglecting skincare, so my face is all dry. Probably doesn't help that I'm putting on makeup twice today because I already did makeup once this morning. Now it's evening, I'm doing makeup again, but I love makeup. So my face can just handle it. I look so ghostly right now. I'm gonna go in with the Milani Silky Matte Bronzer. I could use the one that's in the Patrick Ta duo, but I could be extra and use a separate one, so that's what I'm gonna do. So many people rave about this bronzer, but it's just not very pigmented. I don't know, I like it. Just fine though. I like it. I don't love it. Today's not really a makeup review though, but I can still talk about whatever I want. It's Pride Month and that means I can do whatever I want, right? That's a joke, by the way. I just thought of another good topic. Pride in general. Pride in general is just so awesome. I love Pride. I've only been to one. I went to the 2019 one in my town. I didn't go to last year's because there was not one last year, and this one my town isn't doing until September, which I'm disappointed because it means I have to wait longer, but at the same time I'm like, it'll be so much cooler in September. I won't be melting in the summer heat. So while I'm disappointed it's not now and that I have to wait, I'm also very happy that it's not gonna be scorching hot. Because the 2019 one, it was so much fun, but it was really hot. So I brought over the Lunar Beauty Moon Prism blush palette. This is just a good blush palette. I'm gonna mix Stargaze and Pink Moon. I love just mixing these. It's so weird because it looks like I haven't used this palette hardly at all. There are like no dents in the shades, but I use this palette so frequently. They last forever. I don't know how they do it. They just do. I see dents in none of the shades, and I use, especially the two that I'm using now, so frequently. It's a really, really good blush formula. Whoa, I kind of went overboard. I was just like packing it on, and it's hard for me to say that blush went overboard because I do a ton of blush, but I think I might have gone overboard just a little bit. I'll fix it in just a minute though. I'm just gonna pat over with my sponge, and this should really lighten it up. Okay, this cheek is the level of blush I like. This one is really it's really pushing it there. So I'm just gonna pat a little bit more powder over. There we go, that's better. Now let's go into the lower lash line. I'm gonna basically do the same order I did on the top, just on the bottom. For my inner corner, I'm gonna go back into the Glam Light palette and use probably my favorite inner corner shade, and that's French Vanilla. You can see a huge dip in this shade. It's just perfect for inner corners for any look. Now I'm gonna go do mascara and brows, and then I will be back for highlight and lips. Okay, so for highlight, I'm gonna go into the Oden's Eye Norns highlight in Web of Destiny, I believe. And I'm just gonna, I love this highlight so much, I'm just gonna highlight. It's just a really nice pinky shade. I thought it would go well with this look. Okay, now for setting spray, I'm gonna use the Milk Makeup Hydro Grip. And just blend over it with my sponge to mesh all the makeup together. So for lips, I'm gonna go into the ColourPop Good and Plenty lip liner. Now I'm gonna go into the Necromancy Cosmetica lipstick in Morning Rose. This is a Puerto Rican indie brand that I love. Okay, and now I'm gonna top it with the ColourPop Mythic Journey gloss. And this is the finished by makeup look. I hope you guys like this look here, and now let's go ahead and move on to the non-binary look. Okay everyone, so as I specified at the beginning of the video you are watching right now, I am not doing the non-binary look in this video, so definitely make sure that you subscribe so that you see when I do post that one. Here is the kitty, because she's very cute. But yes, thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked it, make sure to like it and subscribe for more makeup and kitten related content. I upload on Sundays and on Wednesdays if I can, and if I can't, then I upload whenever I want to. Also, please make sure to leave any thoughts or questions that you have down in the comments section below. Thank you so much for watching again, and goodbye!